This is another of the neighbor's cats, but this cat is trying to be super friendly with me. Coming up in this next clip, you'll see why it's hard to do voiceovers. I believe that each neighborhood has a church and that each church is based on a different saint. So I think that the saint in my neighborhood, it was a celebration to honor that saint. This is a newly developed coffee tour.
Hello?
Reason 438 why it's hard to record voiceovers.
Hello?
Philip and two other guides are working with a family to develop coffee tours in Valle.
It is not native to Africa or Central America. It comes from Australia. This one, however, is different. This mostly just grows in this type of climate. So the older it gets, the different the bark changes. So the bark.
He's taken his tour guide test in Spanish, which is not his first language.
These leaves they use for making tamales, to wrap them, and you'll find smaller ones being used for the first layer of wrapping, and the bigger one will complete the wrap. They normally have two leaves to keep everything fresh and away from moisture, because it does get cooked in water, but it doesn't want to consume as much water because then it's soggy and not stiff at all. So two leaves are used.
This family's been growing coffee for 5 generations, and I really appreciate that he and the other guides are helping them develop a small business around the coffee plants that they're growing. And mind you, it is very small and it is being developed. There are some rough edges, but I like to support local businesses.
It's out of season, it's late. It's not supposed to be growing right now, since when we look over here, it is starting to flower. Harvest season for coffee here in Valle is between September and January. After that, it starts with a flower, a white flower. It smells like jasmine and orange. It has a very beautiful aroma. It takes 9 months to go from flower until cherry, until it's ready. The same incubation period as humans have. Only then would it be ready, but it has a 3-month harvesting period. Pacamara, and that is Arabica, from the variant Arabica. Like over here is one flower. It's not smelling yet, it hasn't opened. It will open within the next few weeks.
The path does take you through an area where there are quite a few dogs. I was a little bit nervous.
They should not be able to harvest it, but they're a little bit late. This is what you're looking for between this and this, dark red. When it is light red like here, it's not ready to be picked. Each cherry has 2 coffee beans inside of it. So when we say, okay, it takes 4,000 beans to create 1 pound of coffee, that means 2,000 cherries that needs to be picked. One tree will produce 1 pound of coffee on average. Some can produce less and some can produce a little bit more, but normally not. So how it works is they reach maturity at 5 years old. You cannot, like you see this one was cut at the top. They get cut so we can pick the cherries without damaging the limbs. If the limbs get damaged, they don't produce any more coffee, and that is a lot of coffee you lose over 12 years. The pods need to be firm and thick. This one is nearly there, but it can be picked already and harvested. When we look for one that is better, this one would be the perfect one. You can also use the sun to check the seeds, but the best is if they're nice and thick and firm and hard, then they'll be growing. Or if there is not as many to remove, these ones will be planted additionally. As you see, these ones are about 2 years old. They will start producing now their first season. They should producing their first season around about now. Because they're about 2 years old. As you can see, the limbs at the bottom doesn't really have anything. Busto, Excelsa, and Lebrica. But Lebrica and Excelsa is the two less grown in the world. They're not very popular at all. Robusto and Arabica is the two most grown ones in the world. So Arabica is the highest grade coffee that you can find, is Arabica. The one that gets sold into instant coffee and stuff is Robusto. They also taste very different. Most of Arabica gets grown in Latin America, most of it, not all of it. Because geisha comes from Ethiopia. It was discovered there. The first coffee was also discovered in Ethiopia. Now, Brazil produces 40% of all Arabica that's grown in the world. It's produced by Brazil, 40%. The most that is Robusto that is produced by Vietnam. But it's the lesser grade coffee. That's the one we normally find that is butter and stuff. You need cream and sugar to drink it. Arabica, you do not need cream or sugar. You can drink it black and it tastes delicious. It has a very fruity and nutty flavor. It has some acidic, different varieties of Arabica has different aromas. Now, I don't know if you know this, a very fun fact. Coffee has a lot more, how do you call it, flavor compounds than wine. Many more flavor compounds than wine.
Wow.
So you have a lot more flavors, where wine only has, if I remember correctly, it has 600 and coffee has 800 different flavor aromas.
Normally, I would not be that calm around snakes, but it was actually really cool to see this snake that was hunting a little frog that it had picked up its scent. And I didn't really feel threatened by this snake, so it was actually just kind of zen watching it do its thing. The only other time I've seen snakes was one on my property that terrified me, and one that flung out at me from a tree when I was on a hike. So we walked up the hillside to see where some of the plants were growing, and then there were many plants growing next to the little store that the family operates as well. They also have an area that has a lot more of the coffee plants, and they're going to be expanding to include that in the coffee tour.
All eagles mate. They'll hook in their talons and do what's called a death fall. They'll fall from the top, and if they don't,
There's a few kinks to work out. This is how he had to open the gate to let us into the side yard. Philip is also encouraging the family to clean up the property from trash and litter, but he did state an interesting fact that garbage collection is only about 20 years old in Panama.
this is Catura. It's from the Arabica variant, and you'll be able to taste this when we go inside, and you can also buy the whole beans or just powder for brewing at home.
It is pretty cool to learn about where the food comes from, what it looks like when it's in its natural state before it's harvested. And the aroma on that flower was incredible. I think it'd be worth having a few plants just for the aroma itself.
They get dry.
They feel so light, eh?
Yeah, they are. They are. Now, do you understand now why it takes 4,000 beans to create 1 pound of coffee?
Yeah.
1 cup of coffee, I'm sorry. 1 cup of coffee. 4,000.
1,000 for 1 cup of coffee.
Yeah. So from here it gets roasted on the fire. They roast it for about 2 hours, and then it gets ground. When they ground it, they will ground it sometimes throughout the night, because the caffeine actually keeps you awake. So they will ground it right through the night. They'll have a shot of adrenaline the whole night long, going through on a caffeine high.
¿Qué se cuenta? ¿Cómo va todo?
Bien, bien, gracias a usted.
Ahí bien hasta ahora.
This is Mr. Thierry. He's the owner.
Coronado.
Mucho gusto.
He is the owner of the whole plantation and shop. Sí, por favor. Sí, claro. Okay, so do you guys want with sugar or just straight up like that?
Does she have any milk? Cream?
¿Usted tiene leche?
So as you can see, it's a simple setup. It's not fancy. They sell the coffee in brown bags. They serve it in a paper cup. You won't find a pour over. It's just brewed in a pot. But as I said, they're just starting, and Philip really is a good wealth of information. So you can contact him on WhatsApp and support the local business in El Valle. My current Airbnb guest is very knowledgeable about composting, and he suggested that I get some manure. So I posted online, and I got a response from one of the very well-known families in Panama, and we got to see some amazing horses in the stables, and she was preparing them for a show that was going to be in Chame the next day. This is one of the things that I think adds to the charm of El Valle, is that there are so many people who keep horses and ride them, and it just kind of seems like you step back in time when you come to El Valle. Also, interestingly, the road to get to El Valle was really only developed in 1928. It's not that long ago that people have been able to come up to the mountains on an actual road.
Restaurant style or?
No, they have a special gate, so
Okay.
we look for that very special.
That's the color I've been trying to get my hair.
Uh-huh.
Wow.
It's really good. He should go well. He's for you. He should go.
It's kind of hard to see the eye color of this little one, but it had the most amazing blue eyes. Just gorgeous.
You know, people buys them for their kids, and then the kids grow up, and then
yeah.
they get abandoned. So they call me, and I say, okay. And they're happy here.
I got my hair cut. I haven't had my hair this short since probably I was 13, maybe 14 years old. I mean, it's like off. And I got it cut because I had been messing around with chemicals for my hair that I shouldn't have been doing, trying to enhance the gray, but it actually like made it red and then yellow, and then I even had some green in there. So the really interesting thing about cutting off my hair, like I had a trauma when I got it cut at 13 because I also had a perm. It was supposed to be a body wave. And I cried for days and days and days. And now it's like just so simple, like hair grows. It's not a big deal. So it's just nice to change, you know? It's nice to see changes
as we get older. And I actually think this looks pretty cute. It feels a little weird, you know, because I don't have any hair on the back of my neck, but it'll grow.